Paltrocast.
Thank you for taking the time. So much to ask you. So much to ask you. But first, how are you? That's the first question.
I'm good, thank God. Feeling well. I'm here in, Tampa Bay, and I love Florida. After living in California for 46 years, I came east again.
Right. After living in New York, did you grow up in Astoria or you just spent some of your childhood around there?
Yeah, I was in Astoria, Queens till I was 5, and then we moved to Long Island, Dix Hills.
I didn't know you were a Long Islander. I'm dialing in from Long Beach, Long Island, New York. Now,
Oh,
Dick Hills has given the world so many entertainers, yourself, Rosie O'Donnell, etc. Was anyone in your high school class that we may know besides you?
not that I know of or remember, but my high school class. Well, two things. I also lived in Long Beach, but I'll tell you that in a second.
Really?
I went to Hofstra. I went to Seton Hall High School,
Mm-hmm.
and Seton Hall and Patchogue, and then I went to Hofstra University.
Like me, I went to Hofstra.
So Hofstra had a lot of alumni that people know about,
Yeah.
back in the day. And then I, of course, went to Manhattan and studied with Stella Adler for 3 years and got into the actor studio. So,
Wow.
but no one in the that I remember at Half Hollow, because I left there, don't forget, um, pretty early on and went into private school.
Right, right. These days, Hofstra is really hard to get into. I wouldn't have been able to get in with my academics to how good it is now. So we both made it out in time. But back to you, Robert.
Well, how good was, well, I had a full scholarship for drama.
Really? Okay.
Back when I went, they had the Freshman Theater Arts Corps program, which was in conjunction with Yale. And you were able to immediately, you had to audition to get in. And I was a good B minus, C plus student. Did decent on my SATs, but I had an overwhelming curricula in terms of playing football at Seton Hall and becoming a big football guy, and then winning first place New York State solo competition in music, and then first place in acting in the Forensic League. So I had done quite a bit of anyway. So I went to Hofstra.
We're going to come back to that and the Long Beach thing because we have to talk about your upcoming gig there with the Boca Black Box team. You mentioned that you were singing way back then. So when did the singing start versus the acting for you?
Well, the acting started early on. I mean, in 4th grade at Half Hollow Hills, I have to give my 4th grade teacher, Miss Alexander, after we did a play called George Washington Slept Here. She walked me and my parents out to the parking lot of the school, and she said, "I have to encourage him in the arts. He's got a natural ability." And so she really set the stage. And I remember feeling a bit elated and excited when she had said that. Subsequently, in 8th grade, they discovered I had a voice. I was singing, and it popped out. And I loved music even early on.
Mm-hmm.
And then at Seton Hall, I was in the Forensic League winning awards for acting. I won many, many awards. They were like these little mini, you probably remember, they were like on a weekend, you would have the National Forensic and Catholic Forensic League, and you would do an original interpretation, or you would interpret a scene from a movie or play multiple characters. And I was winning that. Like I said, I became 6th in the nation, 1st in New York State. And I was singing after football practice in the shower at Seton Hall.
Mm-hmm.
And a nun was walking by the hallway and heard this voice coming from the inner sanctum. And she sent someone in to find out who was singing. And I was in the shower. The guy said, "Sister wants to talk." I said, "I'm in the shower. Tell her no." She wants to know. Don't tell her. He says, "I already did." Anyway, so I went, put a towel on, a little thing like this. So he says, "Yes, sister." She says, "That you're singing?" "Yes, I want you in the glee club." "Sister, I'm already too busy. I've got football, I've got the drama club and all of that stuff." She says, "We'll see about that." And she called my mother. And my mother put the pressure on me. She said, "Try it. You may like it. You never know. At least try it." Well, I went to the class, the glee club, which didn't sound too exciting to me at that time period. Glee club, And I went in there and they were like, 18, 20 girls and 4 guys. And that kind of was appealing. I looked around and said, this can't be that bad then, you know. You're singing, you have a immediate rapport with the young girls here in class and the classmates. So anyway, that kept me rooted, but I did have a voice. And then they got me an opera coach, and then I won first place New York State solo competition. But I was acting concurrently.
Right. That's fantastic. And the accolades for your singing come from really high places. For example, Quincy Jones, I think the last Quincy Jones interview he did, he was talking about how the Beatles were horrible musicians. So the fact that Quincy thinks that your singing is great and the Beatles were not great musicians, that says a lot about your singing.
Yeah, he came, brought 17 people to my show, and then, unbeknownst to me at the time, on his Facebook page, posted a wonderful, wonderful quote that people were calling me up. Hey, did you hear what Quincy said? I said, no. And then and then the rest is many people have weighed in on that since. And I have so many different quotes from great people that have been to my shows in Vegas. And then also the last 4 shows that Don Rickles did standing. Don asked me to do a show with him in Vegas at the Orleans. I'd done the Venetian prior by myself. And then around the world, touring around the world, doing this American Songbook. And Phil Ramone produced my album, Darren.
Yeah. Billy Joel's great producer, Phil Ramone.
Yes. And Phil Ramone, and that went to #6 Billboard Jazz.
Yeah, so that kind of leads into my question. The show that you're doing there with the Boca Black Box is called My Kind of Town. Is it a preset show that you know the set list order, or does it change a little night to night?
Changes. I mean, I have so many songs. I've got over 300 songs, 3 and change, and they're all wonderful standards.
Sure.
And so I kind of tailor it for the show, and I pick a bunch of songs, rehearse a bunch of songs with the guys, and then this way it's based on the audience and with the feeling and the story I'm telling. I try to go through an emotional story with people, and not just, you know, singing a song, but creating a theatrical experience with the music as well, and tell stories and in between anecdotes. So I might say, okay, skip that, go to second set, let's go to this. You know, it's I like the spontaneity of that for me.
Who's your musical director?
Well, the man that I've been using the most is a man named Randy Waldman, and he's Barbra Streisand's musical director for like 25 years, George Benson's.
Yeah.
And those guys out of LA. And then I've used Ed Martell, who was Engelbert Humperdinck's, Lee Musiker, who was Tony Bennett's, and also Russ Kassoff. And I'm using a guy in Tampa here, a Russian guy, Alex Nokomovsky, who's a terrific pianist. It's better to use sometimes you don't want to have to fly everybody in.
Yeah.
So you choose so I have him, and I've got a piano, bass, drums, and guitar. Nice, intimate 4-piece hot 4, and it's like a Lamborghini as opposed to a big orchestra, which is great too. I mean, I love that. I love riding that wave, and but it's wonderful.
So as you mentioned before, you had the high charting Billboard Jazz title that Phil Ramone produced. You also have, 140 film credits, you have all these touring credits, etc. So where you're at now, I see you steadily working for 40 to 50 years. When did you kind of lose the imposter syndrome, or stop at least worrying about when the next gig was going to come?
I think who was it? Henry Fonda had said it one time before. You never stop worrying about that. There's always a thing. Hey, but it's not so much as the next gig, because you can always get a gig. It's going to be the next piece that really excites you. And for me, with the music, I have that outlet, which is marvelous. I've directed a couple of films.
Yes.
That have gotten some very nice acclaim. And like, for instance, I just did a film that I was of all places in Tel Aviv and Slovakia right before the strike. And I did a film on the Holocaust, true movie, true story, 1942. Slovakia in Bardeo. And Emil Fish, a Holocaust survivor, it's his story when he was 7 years old. And I play a character who saves over 300 girls from Auschwitz. So here I am, a Catholic guy playing an Orthodox Jew. So that was, a great challenge. And it's a very emotional, moving film, and right spot on for the times. Spot on for the times.
Can you take a compliment, or are you maxed out for the day on the compliments?
So you can always take a compliment.
Okay. So, hey, some people can't take compliments. Comics usually cannot take compliments. They have to go, yeah, I wasn't having a good day. Well, anyway, in your case, you exemplify what I found in interviewing a lot of professional wrestlers, in that the meaner the guy on stage or on camera, the nicer, more wonderful, accepting human being they are off stage. Clearly a classy, pleasant human being that is cultured and all that. Is that a daily struggle for you, where people think that you're a certain way because of your roles and you have to turn them?
That was there's always that lingering scent of characters you've played. And then I have also played on, when I did Profiler for NBC for 4 years, we did 88 episodes where I played the head of the man who created profiling and saved a lot of lives. He was a much beloved character. I think I got 4 years in a row, oddly enough, the sexiest man alive voted for on the internet. George Clooney was 23. I was number 1. Just to goes to show you on the for that character. So once, and I always knew, because Stella Adler, who was again my mentor,
right,
was a brilliant woman, and as was Lee Strasberg. And Stella said, "Look, they're gonna cast you as the bad guy, but then there's gonna be the transition." And I studied the careers of Lee Marvin and Humphrey Bogart and Edward G. Robinson and all those great guys that were marvelous actors. And Bogart played the sniveling bad guy for many years, and then made a transition. Something happens. And over the years, I had done stuff that was leading man, anti-hero leading man. Even the Maniac Cop series. I did some independent films that maybe I shouldn't have done, but I turned down studio pictures that played the same kind of stereotypical bad guy to play I'd rather do a B or a B minus or even a C plus film to play the good guy to do something different. And because you never know where that's going to be found, it's nice to look back on stuff, and I have that. So there was that, but I do get that, oh my God, you're nothing like I expected.
Right.
Especially when you do something like Goonies and you frighten the hell out of, kids.
Yeah, well, Goonies related question here. Do you find that if the person recognizes you and they're between the age of 40 and 55, it's always Goonies?
No, and it's even younger than that. It goes all over the place, because those parents have shown Goonies to their kids. And so it goes, even in my shows, when I do my shows, when I did my first shows in Vegas, they were surprised to see the amount of young people, 20s, 30s, 40s, not people, that would normally come to those shows.
Right.
And that's still the same way. I did a show in LA a couple of weeks ago, young audience, mixed in with an older audience, but a lot of young people. And there's a lot of different, you never know where people are fans of Stargate Atlantis, Bond, Showgirls, Die Hard, Goonies, of course. So I find a wide variety of people liking. Someone yesterday, I went to get a haircut. She goes, "I loved you as Bailey Malone in Profiler." That's what made me bring it up, and you never know where, and that's around the world.
Yeah, right.
Somebody sees something, they even remember something like Hill Street Blues.
Yeah,
that I did, and they'll
great,
remember.
Great theme song, by the way, Hill Street Blues. People don't talk about that one when they talk about the all-time great TV theme songs.
Yes.
So down to the last 2-3 questions before I let you go. First one, yes, there's this show, the Boca Black Box is presenting, but do you have a lot of tour dates beyond this planned?
We had a bunch of tour dates in Europe that was supposed to kick off in December, but because of the war and what's happening overseas, it was advised to postpone a little bit because they don't know how bad it might get or not. So there's that, and I've got some film commitments coming up. I've got to go and film this TV series. I'm waiting on the dates, and then I have a movie after that in February. So I don't, and I'm finishing up the new album. So I was laying off a lot of tour dates until the new album comes out, and then I'll just hit it because it's quite an it's I think it's going to be a very, I mean, the songs I have are eclectic, and I think they'll surprise. So we're waiting on that.
Got it. Next question. We know about the acting, we know about the singing, the directing, etc. But when you're not busy working, what's the number 2 hobby?
My kids. I got a 4-year-old. I got 8 kids, 4, 17, 19, 22-year-old twins. The hobby is life. The hobby
is life. That's a song title for your next album, if it's not already.
Life. Maybe you'll write the lyrics to it.
You got it. Anything for Robert Davi. And the last question is, you mentioned Long Beach. Tell me about living in Long Beach. Was it the same era as Tony Danza, for example?
I don't remember Tony Danza living there, but I lived there when I went to Hofstra. A guy named Igor Henning had a place. I think it was, I forget the name of the strip there. That's the beach. It's along the strip.
Right. There's the boardwalk along East Broadway and Shore Drive. I'm sorry, Shore Road. I don't know why I'm messing up street names right there. There's East Beach. That's like the West End with all the bars like Minnesota's.
Yeah, it wasn't that. It was more residential, but I forget the name of the street. But it was a great place. And instead of the when I stayed in the towers, the Hofstra Towers, for the first year or so, and then I moved to a house that I rented from in Long Beach with a girlfriend that I had. Would come in, and we stayed in Long Beach, and it was great. It was great. And my time at Hofstra was great. Long Island is wonderful. I went back recently. I just did a bunch of concerts in Massachusetts at the Big E.
Mm-hmm.
I was back there in September, and it was great to see the East Coast of Long Island again. Going out to the Hamptons and the North and South Shore. So great.
Do you remember in Long Beach if you ever went to a bar called Shines?
I don't remember.
Okay, it was there for 100 years. Figured I'd knock that one out at you, but either way,
I wasn't much of a bar goer.
I mean, football, singing, acting. You're busy.
At that time at Hofstra, I was in the theater.
Yeah,
I was doing a lot of theater, and that's where you spent your time. You know what I mean? In the theater. And there was a place outside of Hofstra, right on Hempstead Boulevard, that everybody used to go to. I forget the name of that place. They had pizza. What?
Bogarts, maybe?
I don't remember. It was not an elegant place, but it had pizza. It had, and we'd go there after a show or someplace like. I remember that, but I was never much to I never did, even in New York. I never hung out at Cafe Central with all the guys and did all of that stuff. I was doing my own thing, wherever.
Got it. Well, I'm gonna end this one with a compliment and say thank you for the decades of great on-camera stuff, great directing, great singing, etc. And exciting to know that there's more to come from you on the touring front, the recording front, the acting front, that it's not slowing down for you on any level.
Thank you, Darren. I appreciate this.
Paltrocast.